The Challenge Accepted movement, also formerly known as the Black and White Challenge, was the largest social media trend of 2020. It was when we saw women all around the world share their black and white images to empower women as a woman. But this trend started in Turkey first to actually protest femicide. We were protesting the government's decision to exit out of the Istanbul Convention because we believe it saves lives. Hence, there was a hashtag there. And then there was another hashtag that said no to violence against women. When this trend continued on in the rest of the world, these two hashtags were left off. And I believe it's because people didn't understand what they were for, not being able to speak Turkish. So the reason why Turkish women were protesting femicide with Challenge Accepted and our black and white photos is because we are so accustomed to seeing this on our television screens, in the newspapers, and across digital platforms to say that yet another victim has come from a man killing a woman. And we said that we might be the next victim. And this is why our black and white image might be next. And this is what might be circulating the news, because these murders know no specific socioeconomic background. Pinar Gültekin was the unfortunate death that actually sparked the Challenge Accepted movement. So she was murdered by her ex-boyfriend, a jealous man who was upset that she no longer wanted to continue her relationship with him once she found out that he was married and had a kid. So she was kidnapped, she was beaten, she was burned, she was buried in a forest, and she was missing for quite some time within Turkey. So we were carefully following the news, trying to figure out where she was, and just knowing how relatable she was. She was a university student, she was fun and adventurous on social media regularly, she was free-spirited, and she was just so full of life. And to know that an ex-partner of hers was upset that she no longer wanted to continue the relationship, we realized that this is actually very relatable. This is something that could have easily been us too, whether we were a university student or because we like to travel the way she did, or because we post regularly on social media. So when you find a story that you can relate to, and then a tragic death happens by someone that you trust and you're in a relationship, it hits really close to home. So as we're so accustomed to seeing a lot of women die daily, every so often there's one that hits more than usual, and this was one of those cases that was really bone-chilling and upsetting within the country. So it sparked major protests, and then Challenge Accepted was formed online. Turkey has the 6th most global users for Instagram, so when we post something, it moves really quickly online, and this was another form of the protest. As I mentioned earlier, this is a social media trend, and Turkey has the 6th most global users for Instagram. So when we post, things move really quickly. It first mobilized person to person, woman to woman, but then there was a barrier. It was in Turkey, and then the rest of the world, maybe we're being nominated, maybe they saw the black and white challenges, and it started to become woman empowering woman, rather a protest of femicide. And I was really angered by this. I didn't start Challenge Accepted, but I did write a caption in English stating that why this originated, what it was for, and it quickly spread like wildfire on the internet, going viral. And I think the most important tool to gain wide-scale support for this was the use of the English language, because it is the international language of the world. If you want to be able to communicate, you have to be able to do so effectively. And after I shared the caption in English, a lot of news reporters reached out to me. I was doing interviews, others were doing interviews. The media picked it up, and then eventually influencers and very famous Hollywood celebrities were talking about it. So it started person to person, then it used the English language, and then it was the use of influential figures who were discussing this. And this is a widespread problem around the world, and it's not just happening in Turkey. So I think people started to understand that, okay, women are dying in Turkey, but women are dying in my country too, and I can relate to this. And this is when many more women started to join the movement, because it is very unfortunate what's happening to women and how many women are actually being abused. The most concrete success was the government changing its decision to back out of the Istanbul Convention on August 14th. This was a huge win for Turkey, especially the feminist movement within Turkey, because this was why we were protesting with the Challenge Accepted movement. However, 7.5 months later, in the middle of the night, the government still did leave the Istanbul Convention, and they did so silently. So we gained 7.5 months of believing that we had rights to protect women from violence within this country, even though it was taken away later. But we also saw that more protests were being organized, more women and men were joining the protests, the numbers were increasing, more people were reporting abuse on social media, talking about it, and just showing their anger. It was something that was almost taboo, like there was a stigma to talk about it, perhaps out of fear, but I believe that fear left when international media was covering it because of Challenge Accepted. Women felt supported and they felt like their voices were heard. So this is something huge, because when something bad happens, we need to be able to know, we need to be able to stand together and protest it. And it does influence the court decision, especially when it's a huge case. So these were something that was really big that we saw, but then we also saw many organizations and corporations within Turkey actually start to donate money for women-led initiatives. And they also started to publicly show their support, so which normalized the conversation within Turkey. I continue to show my support after Challenge Accepted by using my personal social media platforms, especially Instagram, by reporting the femicide news happening in Turkey, but in the English language. People wanted to continue to know what was going on here, and it also showed like how severe and ongoing the issue was. But then it got to a point where I just felt like I wasn't doing enough. I was just sharing news, translating it, but I wanted to do more. So I actually used a corporate foundation that I manage and my family's football team, and I created its own platform called United for Her. And through United for Her, we created what we call the world's heaviest jersey, which is an alternate jersey for our football team to wear while they're playing their football matches. And it says, "End violence against women" on the jerseys in 15 different languages. Proceeds from this cause are going to go to support women-led initiatives to either prevent, violence against women, or to actually support women in their financial freedom. So we also give free self-defense classes through this. And the main purpose of all this is just to raise awareness. We want other organizations to know that you don't have to be an NGO to talk about it. You can even be a sports team, use your voice, and do good. It's really crucial for men to be involved. It boggles me sometimes when women actually try to kick men out of the protest, saying that we're feminists, you're a man, you're not supposed to be here. Because women are not abusing themselves, it's men that are abusing women. So this was why it was really important for me to use the arena of sports, given that it is male dominated. But I think the most important thing is to get men, whether they're public figures or everyday civilians, to speak out against violence against women, to show their support. Because if you're not speaking out and you're silent, it's the same as condoning it. So the more that we see men speak out in society, attend the protests, aim to use dialogue instead of violence, then I think the more change we'll see, the stigma will end, and we'll start to see the normalization of standing up for this cause, not just from women, but for men too, because if we want this problem to end, it's going to start with the men.